Hey, Nick, are we going? Go. Okay. Sorry, guys. Normally you get a little. I got a little bumper here. We're live here on a Sunday night, one Royal way. Royals uh, end the first half on a high note with the walk-off win on Sunday. What can we maybe expect going into the second half? We'll talk a little MLB draft. The Royals, I believe, by the time we get there, we'll have 3 picks done. So we'll talk about those 3 and what else they could do in the draft. We'll do that right now live. We're back at it here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, rate, subscribe, review on all platforms, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit those notification bells so you know when we do go live for these episodes, usually on Thursday nights and Sunday nights throughout the season. Can't thank you guys enough for the support throughout this season. Lee87 always supporting on all platforms, Discord, social media, all of it. So thank you very much. Tom Kelly, does Cameron have any shot at Rookie of the Year? I think we'll talk about Noah Cameron here in a little bit, but it certainly needs to be in that conversation. We'll go through some of the numbers and whatever. Just if I don't get there, please remind me again. But that is certainly one of the topics as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about tonight that fell into the category of we need to discuss this. The show, as always, brought to you by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our partners Impossible here at Kansas City Sports Network. Thank y'all so much for hopping some questions here in the chat. You guys got this conversation going at 8:09. That's awesome. So why didn't we go for Jason Bullock? So that is Jace Laviolette, the outfielder from Texas A&M. Jared Perkins and I talked about him a little bit, that if he's there at 23, maybe you run to the podium. They didn't. They went another direction. He ended up going a pick before the Royals' second pick there in the second round, or in the first round, like the comp pick, I think it was, the PPI pick for Bobby finishing in Rookie of the Year, for not Rookie of the Year in MVP last season. And we talked about it, and my takeaway from it was, yeah, he had a really down year. Some of the swing and miss stuff was really bad. The swing decisions were pretty poor, but the power, it's kind of like a Jack Caglione light. He doesn't have the same type of power nor the ability to get to it as frequently or on like BC swings like Cags does. But you just kind of bet on the tool and the ability to kind of figure things out. But they decided to go in a different direction. I'm not like bent out of shape about it. I'm like, man, I would have liked it at 23. Again, you kind of bet on the upside and the tools. But, it is what it is. I still think they got 2 solid players, and we'll talk about those in a bit. There's one, Jeff Ellis, who was on Royals Farm Report years ago. I think we got him on the show right before the 22 draft. I think it was the 22 draft. And he covers the Guardians. He does like the Locked On Guardians podcast, all that. He hated that pick. He did not like that they took Laviolette because of the swing decision issues, the swing and miss, the strikeouts, like all that. He's like, they do not, they don't develop those guys well, just in that organization. So I think it was more of, from that perspective, like not the player, but the type of player, and not necessarily, but just the dude with some swing decision concerns and swing and miss concerns, like Laviolette has. They haven't shown it. The Guardians don't show an ability, in his opinion, to be able to work those guys out. So maybe, he is not going to be a guy that comes back to haunt Kansas City in that case, but it also would be pretty ironic if they actually did find a way to develop him. And he is a guy that just murders Kansas City for the next, 10 plus years. But we'll see. We'll talk about the draft on toward the end of this show. I do want to get to the Mets series. You lose 2 or 3 to the Mets. You're fairly competitive through it. The game on Friday got away from you. Taylor Clark got blown up in the 8th of a 1-run game. It's like, okay, it is what it is. You had to try and save the bullpen somehow. And you give that inning to Clark and it gets away. They had some fight. Bobby hits the big home run on Friday to give him the lead. Cruz probably has his first really, truly terrible outing of the year. And it's not, and again, it's easy with the benefit of hindsight to know and go, maybe they need to pull him batter early. Like in most cases, I agree with that, but there are certain guys that I'm okay with leaving let them figure it out, let them earn these outs. And Cruz has fallen, like he has been deserving of the chance to get out of that inning, and it got away from him. Estevez basically comes into a no-win situation. That probably wasn't going to go well from the start, but I understand why they went to Estevez. Ursik's back had tightened up a little bit from throwing back-to-back days in that Pirates series. So even with the off day, they gave him an extra day. He pitched great, I thought, for the most part on Saturday and Sunday. Great today, was fine on Saturday. Give up the one run, but I thought he looked more like the Lucas Ursig that we've come to know over the last couple of outings. So that one gets away from you. You're more competitive on Saturday, and a game where you get thrown a curveball, metaphorically and literally, possibly by Michael Lorenzen. He gets sick overnight. He can't get out of bed, can't keep fluids or anything down, and pitch. And there's no shot I can pitch today. All right, I got to go to and I thought they did it pretty well. And Matt Cotrero talked about that before the game. We had some video, technical issues, not going to be able to get it to you, but I thought they handled that bullpen game about as well as you could, given that it wasn't a planned one. Like when they had, I think it was in San Francisco, and they had a truly planned bullpen game. Yeah, Lee, I did freeze for a second, and and if I'm still frozen, I'm moving on my end. I apologize. I'm still working through my internet situation in this new house, and it's not great. I'm trying to find a way to upgrade it as much as I can. If you guys can hear me, just look away because I probably have a stupid face if I froze at a certain point. But I think they handled it about as well as they could have, with Zerpa giving you a clean first, with Nimmo, Lindor, Soto. I mean, that's about as good as Zerpa's looked, in any spurt for this season. Bolin gave you 3, felt like he pitched pretty well. Gives up the absolute mammo to Juan Soto, but Bolin is, he has propensity to give up homers. So, that kind of happens. But after that, Cruz pitched well. Ursig pitched well. I thought they handled it. Sam Long even looked pretty good. When they gave him the ball in a one-run game, I was like, oh, God. And that's not like Sam Long, the person, solid dude. He has not earned any sort of benefit of the doubt in a one-run game. But with the situation at hand, like you had to give somebody an inning where you probably didn't want to before the game. And to his credit, he goes out there and he struck out the first 2 guys. I was like, this is 2024 Sam Long. Like, okay, it may not be exactly who he is long term, but you absolutely take that from him. The hinge point of this game. Now, I also say this: the Royals should have won that game and won it handily. They didn't handle runners in scoring position well at all in that spot. They had multiple chances with runners on and could not come through. You had Jonathan India leadoff double, and he actually hit the ball really well in this homestand. Leadoff double, and then Bobby, Vinny, Michael couldn't even move it. You get a 2-out runner, in the first, on first, I think it was Vinny with 1 out. Couldn't move him. You had Jonathan India, again, he's at third after Isbell doubles, India doubles. It's a 1-run game. It's 2-1. He moves to third on a wild it was an error by the reliever. Threw the ball into the outfield. It hit India's hand. They got stepped on the day before. Just it's there. So he's at third with nobody out in a tie game or in a 1-run game. You're like, okay, with Bobby, Vinny, Salvi or Michael coming up. Okay, one of those guys is going to be able to get him in. And they looked where you couldn't get it done. And it's frustrating that this team, they felt like they maybe had turned a corner with some of the runners in scoring position stuff over the last 10, 12 games. And then in a 2-game stretch, you go 1 for 17 with runners in scoring position. It's just the same sort of thing that we've seen for most of this season. And it sucks. You wish that this team is going to be able to get it figured out. But it just seems like they can't. That they cannot figure out some of the runners and scoring position stuff with any sort of regularity and any sort of consistency. Now, the biggest play of the game actually happened on 2 straight days, with Tyler Tolbert going to steal second on Friday in a 1-run game, and he gets called. They call it safe. Mets asked for the review, and you could see like a fraction of daylight, like maybe he's out, but they called him safe on the field. I don't think there's enough evidence to overturn. As Jake Eisberg put it, we've legislated millimeters of him popping off the bag a little bit on a head-first slide. And, I mean, to the credit of the Guardians, they keep, or the Mets, they keep the tag on, called him out. And I could understand it to a degree, like, yeah, maybe, but I don't think there was enough to overturn that one. But that was a little bit closer to a really good challenge. Bobby goes to steal second in the 8th inning of that game. Yeah, it was off Edwin Diaz. So 8th inning, he steals. I think he has the bag stolen. They beat the throw there. He slides over the bag like you often see guys do now with the, with the head first slide. And he's called safe again. It looked safe. The multiple angles that they showed looked safe. Mets ask for the review again. And I'm thinking, God dog it, they're going to try this again? There's no shot. Like, I don't see, and with any angle that they show, there's nowhere where I see daylight of Bobby pop. You see his body pop up, like his hip. I think it was his right hip kind of pops up, but it looks like his leg stays on too. And he's got his hand or his chest on the bag with it. So I don't see it. No one in the press box could see it. I was small flex. I was in the press box for this game. No one else saw that's where, that there's any chance this gets overturned. And then magically, Alan Porter comes on and says, oh, yeah, the call's overturned. Runner's out. Right? I don't see where that happened. I was shocked. The fans were shocked that back-to-back days this happened. Matt Cotrero talked about it after the game. Nick, if you could go to the audio from his post-game presser, where he talks about it a little bit, and he couldn't believe it either.
What was your vantage point of that play? Did you feel like it was enough to overturn that call?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, he beat it there clearly. Obviously, that part wasn't in dispute. Those guys do a good job of keeping the tag on. I can see why they overturned yesterday. I don't see why they overturned today.
Did the umpire come over and give you the explanation on it?
No, that's not their call. That's done in replay in New York.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously he's not going to go scorched earth because it's, like, in the postgame because that's where you get fined. And generally, and I know people that have their set opinions on what they believe about Matt Cotrero and all that stuff, so I'm not going to try and argue with that point. I generally am all right with his, like, pretty even-keel, calm demeanors. I think over the course of a 162-game season, you need that. Like, the constant kind of up and down emotional roller coaster guys, I don't think they last long. Or they look like clowns going out there every other game and arguing something, like Aaron Boone in New York. Like, that's a situation where I'd be okay, even if it's an auto ejection. Like, you can't let that stand. That's just my opinion. Like, I understand why he reacted the way he did. It's like, what are we doing here? And he flatly said it. Like, no, I didn't think they did. Like, I don't understand how that got overturned. No one understood how it got overturned. Now, if I was in Matt Cotrero's spot, I would have taken my shirt off and laid on the field and caused a scene, because that's BS. Like, I thought it was a BS call, flatly. I don't know where there was any – because if they had called him out and they were looking at it and they said call stance, okay. Like, hey, that was a close play, you move on. With it, and they called him safe. I probably wouldn't have agreed with that one either. Like, if the roles were reversed in that situation, Where I just fail to understand it is you have to have, as they say in Major League Baseball, the NFL, NBA, there has to be indisputable video evidence that the call should be overturned. I don't know where in that, the Bobby Witt Jr. one, where there is substantial video evidence showing he came off the bag. I don't know where that comes in. And I know it may sound like whining. I thought it was a terrible call. I thought it was, again, legislating where it's completely unnecessary for that spot. And it completely took the Royals out of that game. Like, it was done there. There was one out in the 8th inning. It's done. The game is done right there. Tom Kelly, are you glad the pitch challenge system will be in effect in the All-Star game? Yes, because it's going to be in effect next season. I think there's a pretty good chance that does happen. And it gives fans a chance to see what it can do. There was a little bit of it in spring training. Not everyone gets to watch spring training games. So we get to see what this looks like. And I'm a massive fan of the challenge system with automatic ball strike. I am not necessarily in favor of going full robot. Like, I think maybe there's still enough sort of old school baseball in me that there is the human element. And I think the human element is incredibly flawed, which is why this challenge system is important, because it allows you to get calls right. Not all of them, but key ones. I get punched out on a ball. It's a ball and a half out. Yeah, I'm gonna challenge that. Head tap. You'll see that in the All-Star game. And I'll be curious if umpires a little more on their game on a nationally televised game that all of these people are coming to see. If they're, sorry, my brain just shut off. I'll be curious if the strike zone is a lot better, because they know that 60, 70 million people are going to be watching the All-Star game. Like, hey, I probably need to be on my stuff. And if I get a call wrong, everyone is going to see that I jacked that up. So there's an element there that I'm curious about. We do need to hit a break. I went a little long here on a couple different things. I do appreciate everyone hanging out here, leaving questions, all that good stuff. We got more to talk about after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, everybody. I appreciate you hanging out with me here on a Sunday night. If you are live on YouTube and in the chat, thank you very much. If you're listening to this after, thank you as well. Is there anything else from the Mets series you guys wanted to hit on? Any first half sort of questions, topics you guys want to hit before we move on to the MLB draft? If you're watching this still, please drop comments here, and we can kind of go from there, because I didn't have much else from the Mets series. I mean, you get the walk-off today, which was awesome. In a 2-0 game, shout out John Rave for getting the 2 RBI hit that gave the Royals some cushion early, and then it ends up being a 2-2 game. Estevez comes in and he gives up. I think gives up a double that shouldn't have been a double. Nick Malofton made a terrible play in the outfield, and then McNeil comes up and hits a double, and it's a 2-1 game, and then sacked fly. Run comes in at 2-2, and you're like, oh God, they're gonna find a way to lose this in in late innings, get swept heading into the All-Star break. And there was a decision that Macachura made that I'm like, I don't know if I'd do that, but obviously it worked. So there's a certain amount of like, hey, this, it worked out, so therefore it's fine. He pinch hit Jack Caglione in the 9th with Sean Manaea pitching for the Mets. Clay Holmes went, I think, 6, or he went 5, and then Manaea went 3 1/3. So they had like the piggyback situation. Manaea shoved. He had 7 strikeouts and 3 1/3. He was great. One of his first outings back off the 60-day injured list. But he pinch hit Jack Caglione in that spot for Tyler Tolbert. And I'm like, Tolbert's got like 1 or 2 hits in his career. I don't know. Even platooning, I don't know. Tolbert came in for Cags on defense at the top of the 9th. Okay, I did miss that. I had been out of the room, and I missed that happening. Thank you, Jacob, for the clarification here. Because I thought it was just a straight pinch hit, and I was a little perplexed. Makes way more sense now. Okay, regardless, still, you got, Tolbert's you knew Tolbert was going to be coming up in the 9th, and it's like, oh, boy. I don't know how this is going to go. Because Salvi struck out. So there's 1 out. He comes up and gets to first on he slaps a single to right. Hey, good for him. He, only got a couple hits in his big league career, so that's huge. Let me make sure I get it correct here. What happened in the 9th? It's how he got second. I'm like, honestly, I wouldn't have been shocked if he did steal second base. But I just want to make sure that I get this right. I apologize, guys. So, yeah, he did steal second. Rave gets out, and then Nick Lofton, the guy of the homestand, lines a single to left just over the glove of the third baseman. Tyler Tolbert scores, and you go into the All-Star break a winner, 47-30. So glad Tolbert got redemption on stolen base. That's a good angle, because he had that base stolen, and just luck of the draw on the replay official, and he's out apparently. But I mean, that's obviously going to give you a little bit of momentum. But then now you're not playing until Friday. The good news for the Royals is now you're going to go play Miami, who is not a very good team and is going to be selling all pieces as well. So you get a little bit of a soft landing coming out of the All-Star break. Let's look at how is this going to look coming out of the All-Star break, because you got about 2 weeks until the deadline. You'll have 3, 6, 9, about 12 games until the break, or until the deadline there on the 31st, which is an off day for the Royals, incidentally. You go at Miami, at Chicago to play the Cubs. So that's going to be really tricky. The Cubs are awesome. That's a really good team. And the Royals have, I believe, like 21 wins out of, I think they're 21-35 against teams with winning records. So that's going to be, that's going to be a challenge. Then you get the Guardians and the Braves have not been playing great baseball most of this season, with some injuries kind of thrown in there. So that's a 6-game homestand leading up to. So you got six game roadie out the gate, and then 6-game homestand before the deadline. You're 3 games under. Let me check where they're at in the wild card standings at this point, because I think they're probably, if I just based on where they were, 4 games back. In the wild card standings, 4.5 back for wild card spots. Still got to jump the Twins, the Angels, the Rangers, and the Rays before you get there. That's 3 games. That's 3 games before you're even just sitting on the outside. But even then, the Rays are a game and a half out of a spot. So it's not that it's still kind of muddy, but it's just it's really tricky where they're at because they still have a lot of teams to jump to get even to within contention. But then you're still a game or two out of getting one of those spots that the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Mariners hold because the Blue Jays have been hot and the Yankees have been scuffling. Which brings up the Lugo question that Tom brought up here. Percent chance they trade Lugo. I would say at this point, I'd probably say like 60 or 70%, and it probably is going to end up being higher than that. I could even see he gets one start coming out of the All-Star break and that move is made. I think you can still be fairly competitive this season and still trade him because he's not opting to that player option. He's not taking that player option. It's for $15 million. And that's a lot of money to the average person, but to the type of player that Seth Lugo has been for the last season and a half in Kansas City, and he was really solid in San Diego the year before, he's going to get 20 to 25 million on the open market, probably on a 2 or 3 year deal. And that's not to say that Kansas City can't give him that money, but with some of the restraints that we see from the perspective of like payroll and stuff that Kansas City has to work with relative to other teams in Major League Baseball, they probably can't afford that. Because you already have Michael Wacha on the books for about 17, in that 3 for 51, he's been fantastic. But then you'll still have Lorenzen, possibly maybe you trade him. It could get really tricky though with the rotation because if you trade 2 guys, there's no guarantee Reagans comes back this year. No, then it's just going to be a lot of Michael Wacha and Noah Cameron, right? And before we move on to the draft, I do want to talk about Noah Cameron as well. Unbelievable performance today. 6 2/3 shutout ball. I think it was 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. The stats for him so far this season, it's a 2.31 ERA, 70 innings and 12 starts, 58 strikeouts to 22 walks. Now, the walks have been better as of late. We haven't seen those blow up on him too bad. A lot of those were early. And the whip is exactly 1. He gets hit around a little bit, but is a great way to limit damage. Noah Cameron should be in consideration for American League Rookie of the Year. I think everyone since like the middle of May has been, it's Jacob Wilson's award to win. Well, okay. And he still very well might. But Noah Cameron's been one of the best starters in the league when you just look at raw numbers since he's come in. And no one expected this, right? When Noah Cameron got to start, I'm like, that's a hell of a story, man. And he certainly looked like he could impact the big league rotation as like a back-end starter, swing guy, and carve out a role that way. I didn't see a dude that probably is a 3 in the rotation now. Like in that, with Bubic and Wacha, you could probably pencil in Noah Cameron and Reagans. Like you can probably pencil in like a 3 or 4. I mean, that's a hell of an outcome for him. And he's earned every bit of it. A guy that got drafted in the mid rounds, that was kind of a non-prospect and turned himself into one. And there's a lot to be said for a guy like that. And he should be in consideration for American League Rookie of the Year. I don't have the odds. If anyone is able to look up odds at any site where you can throw money around, let me know because I haven't been able to find it. He hasn't gotten enough shine nationally, but I think some of that is because Kansas City hasn't been as good. If Kansas City were the team they were last season, I think we'd see it a lot more. But it's not like the A's have been, bathing themselves in glory either, right? Like they haven't been great. They've been actually worse. Yeah, rookie. Yeah, I mean, it may be either of those guys for the A's. I mean, I absolutely can see that outcome. But I'm not even advocating that Noah Cameron should win it, but he needs to be in more discussions for it than what he is. Just because Jacob Wilson's hitting, 330 with, however many singles, like it's like a right hand Luis Arraez. Like there's value to it, but how much, right? Maybe that's just new school baseball kind of sitting in my brain. 85-1. Jacob Miller came through and said on FanDuel, he is 85 to 1. That's crazy. That is disrespectful. Come on now. No, that's crazy. If Cags has, and I love Cags, but if Cags has better odds than Noah Cameron, we have lost the plot on how good Noah Cameron is. Come on, that's terrible. Okay, moving on. Tom Kelly asked, most likely non-Lugo player that they trade, I think it would be Lorenzen. Just because he's got a 1-for-1, the player option. There's some versatility there. He may not be the greatest pitcher in the world, but for what he provides as a 5-starter swing guy reliever, okay, at least Cags is 100 to 1 now, but 85 to 1 for Noah Cameron is disrespectful. There's a ton I think teams do value guys like Michael Lorenzen. I mean, he provided a ton of value for the Royals down the stretch when he was healthy. Being able to start games, come out of the bullpen, pitch well in the playoffs. I think there's like an outside shot that they move Carlos Estevez because it's kind of the same situation. It's a 2-year deal, it'll be a year and a half control. Teams covet relievers. You may be able to get something decent. But I don't think the Royals are going to sell off a ton because I think they still believe they're in their competitive window, and this year just hasn't gone the way they need it to. And that's not necessarily, and I think that's the way that you handle it this year. Like I think in Kansas City we have our brains have been trained to, okay, we're just going to sell everybody, and we're getting rid of all assets and we'll rebuild in a couple of years. I don't think the team certainly doesn't view it that way. And when you have a core with Bobby, Vinny, Cags, Michael, Reagan's, now throwing Noah Cameron, and that makes Lucas Erceg. You have a nucleus of players that can still be a competitive playoff team for you. You just need a few more things to go your way in the offense to get right. And I don't think this team is that far away from being able to be relatively competitive next year. We'll see what they're able to do in free agency trades and make the team better that way. But this is not going to be a true sell off everything like we saw in 18 through 22, right? Or 23. I don't think it's going to end up being anything like that. Well, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the MLB draft. The Royals have made 4 picks so far as of 9-10 on Sunday night. They have 2 picks in the first 30, and then they picked 61 in the second round, and then their competitive balance pick 71. First pick they made was a guy named Sean Gamble out of IMG Academy down there in Florida. He's a left-handed hitting outfielder, can play a little bit of both. The grades via MLB Pipeline: 55 hit, 50 power, 55 run, 55 arm, about a 50 in the field. So kind of a solid all-around player. The scouting report reads he's left-handed hitter, smooth and repeatable swing with a knack for finding the barrel, controlling the zone and doing damage to all fields. As he gains strength, he's showing more raw power and should continue to leverage the ball and get to more moves along. Above average runner, saw some time in center field, looked good there with some evaluators leaning him toward the outfield as opposed to the infield, whereas athleticism and arm strength can play well. He is a Vanderbilt commit. They comped him like a Bryson Stott type. There was another Danny Barand underscore had a thing on him. Said he was, Gamble brings explosive athleticism and is a threat on the base paths with 60 run. He has about a 60 run. He was iffy on the circuit with his data, struggled to make consistent contact, but when he did, it was consistently hard. Max EV of 110, strong bat speed, struggled with whiffs and needs to improve on identifying breaking balls to take off. Versatile option defensively due to his athleticism and could fit at shortstop or center field. So I think what we're looking at here is a more raw athlete. And this initially, I didn't think this was much of a bet on tools. And just kind of when you see those kind of grades, and this is maybe where scouting grades can kind of deceive you a little bit. You see a guy across sports 50-55, it's that guy's probably a big leaguer. But the Royals have a lot of guys like that fall into that. They got a bunch of 50s and 55s, but no 6s, 7s, when it comes to the tools, the way scouts view them. It's that guy's probably a big leaguer, but to what capacity? Kyle Lisbo was kind of that guy. I think it's certainly an interesting pick, not one that I think many people expected. But I think JJ and Brian Bridges should be given the benefit of the doubt with the way the last couple of drafts have gone. And when you're picking in the 20s, it's a little more difficult. It's a little more dart throws than surefire things. And this draft fell weirdly because Eli Willits goes number 1. Cade Anderson falls to 3 because of what the Angels do. Like it was really weird at the top. But a lot of high school kids, a lot of pitchers, and a lot of shortstops. And that's kind of the way things ran. Now, the second pick was a guy that we talked about with Jared Perkins on Thursday about. Josh Hammond out of High Point, North Carolina. Wesleyan Christian, a third baseman, a newer third baseman. He was a guy that was a pitcher for most of his upbringing and then decided he wanted to go hit, became one of the best right-hand hitters, out of the high school class this year. Pretty unbelievable. We talked about it's like he's got plus raw power, plays to all fields, and hits the ball exceptionally hard from the right side. Bat speed and strength to translate to 20-25 home runs a season. Perhaps more if he learns to lift balls in the air with more consistency. Pop stands out more than his pure hitting ability, but he's been making better swinging decisions as he begins to lead pitching behind. I do think that is a really interesting point because that is sorry, my internet cut out there for a second. There's more potential on the offensive side that he hasn't quite tapped into because they're working on the pitching stuff as well. If they ditch pitching and they just let him hit, there might be some more offense and ceiling to what we're seeing from this offense as a guy, kind of a thicker left, 6'1" guy. Looks like this could be a third baseman of the future type. But it's obviously kind of hard to tell. But again, he's kind of across the board. It's a lot of 50s, 65 arm, which would play at third. He's a solid glove. Feels kind of, maybe it's a little lazy because it's 6'1", 2. I think, kind of a thicker, 6'1", 210, some legit power. Can kind of the Austin Riley comps. That was what Mark DeRosa threw out there. The swing was kind of eerily similar. I was trying to go a little more as it kind of has a little bit of like a right-handed Mike Moustakas kind of feel. But I don't know if he's necessarily going to be the prospect that Moose was because Moose was a top 3 pick. But that could be something to dream on, and I think this is a dude that we're going to hear a lot about pretty soon. I think he's probably going to end up being the highest ranked of these draft picks. I would probably guess it's going to be Mitchell, Hammond, Jensen is probably top 3. What draft pick has a chance to make the Royals first? It's hard to tell right now just because we're 4 picks in. I would bet if it's somebody of these 4 picks they have, obviously Gamble, Hammond, they drafted Michael Lombardi, a pitcher from Tulane, and then Justin Lampkin, a pitcher from Texas A&M are those next 2 picks. I'm going to look up Michael Lombardi's numbers and I'll read the scouting report they got there on MLB.com. So sorry guys, I lost my tab here. So Michael Lombardi, 6'3", 200, right-handed pitcher. They got fastball as a 60 grade, curveball as a 65, changeups a 50, control of 45, 50 overall grade. Lombardi's been unhittable this spring, both fastball and curveball generating best in-zone swing and miss rates in Division I. Heater 93 to 95, up to 97 with tremendous carry, so good shape. Those are the things we like to see, as well as some arm side run. High 3/4 arm slot helps him stay on top of his 78 to 81 curveball, which is a sharp break that he struggles to land in the zone, and it doesn't draw many chases. He also shows some feel for an 82 to 85 changeup with some depth, so he pitches enough so he has enough pitches to start after battling strike zone. First 2 college seasons, he has proved his control as a junior, and his athleticism and delivery will continue to get better once he becomes a full-time pitcher. He played all 4 infield spots in center field for Tulane, showing good approach to the plate, but his future's on the mound. Stats for him at Tulane this year. You can see some of the command stuff. Mostly a reliever, and in college, I'd imagine they're going to try and get him to start early. But this past season, it was a 2.14 ERA, sub-1 WHIP, 73 strikeouts in 42 innings, 21 walks still. So there's still some command concerns, but this is a bet on tools and bet on stuff and them being able to refine it, and they're able to get him around the zone. That could be a pretty special arm. Thoughts on Cade Anderson? Cade Anderson's a freak. The fact that he went to Seattle, in that pitching lab, that dude's going to move real fast. He's probably going to be in Seattle next season, I would imagine. He's probably one of the only guys in this draft class that's going to move really significantly, with any significance. I bet he's going to go to high A right away and in Everett, and then we'll probably see him. He's probably going to start in Double A in 26, and then it's just, he'll go to the big leagues fast, and probably won't even send him to Tacoma. No reason to pitch in the PCL, just pitch in the prospect league that is the Texas League, and then head right up. I'd imagine that's the way that they handle it. The other guy that they got here is God doggone, I thought I had it. Sorry guys, I had too many tabs open. Justin Lampkin, left-handed pitcher from Texas A&M, 6'4", 210. Fastball slider grade above average. The controls 55. He was the part of the bio. It says Lampkin was Texas's best high school southpaw in 2022 when he threw a 7-inning, 21 strikeout no hitter. You play 7 innings in high school, so 21. So every batter he faced, he punched out, and drew some Chris Bubich comparisons, but was unsignable away from his A&M commitment. Lampkin works 91 to 93, tops out at 95, deceiving hitters with a funky arm action and the extension that he creates. Sounds a lot like Chris Bubich. His best offering is a low 80s slider with more depth and horizontal action. Sounds a lot like Chris Bubich. Low 80s changeup doesn't have much life and isn't particularly effective to right-handers who he keeps in check by running his heater in on their hands. He doesn't have the smoothest mechanics, but they help him hide the ball well. Sounds like Chris Bubich. His strike throwing has improved throughout his time in College Station, though his control stands out more than his command. His floor is also more notable than his ceiling as a safe bet as a back of rotation starter. And that sounds like they drafted a Chris Bubich kind of clone in Justin Lampkin. Let me get some of the stats here for you. So he pitched all 3 years as a start, mostly as a starter in the last 2. 84 innings this year, 98 strikeouts to 19 walks. Gave up a lot of homers. You got 28 homers in 209 innings. That's a pretty significant number. I think some of that is just, that could be metal bats and, growing up a little bit. It was a 3.42 ERA in the SEC. They were able to get to the College World, pitched in the College World Series, pitched in the National Championship Series. So dude with some legitimate experience there. A 3-year contributor at a Power 5 school in the SEC. Nothing to sneeze at there. So I think those are two solid picks. I like Lombardi a little more because I think the upside's a lot higher, just at this initial look. But Lampkin feels like a type, kind of like a Drew Beam-ish type. If he's able to get that changeup in check, that you can almost pencil in, as a 4 or 5, moving forward. So I think that's probably what I have here. I'm going to toast game Nick Lofton for the walk-off here on a Sunday night. It's an old-fashioned Sunday night for me. Need to do that more often. It's good stuff. Appreciate everybody that hung out here on YouTube. Listen to me ramble here for 45 minutes on a bunch of different topics. I'm not as knowledgeable about some of these draft guys. I'm just reading scouting reports that are already pre-written and numbers, that are on Baseball Reference. If I have time next week, I will try to see if I can get somebody on to recap most of these guys. If I can, maybe I'll get Jared back on if I have the opportunity. programming for next week. It is the All-Star break. I'm still going to record at least 2 episodes during the week. Wednesday, I think I'm going to do a Wednesday. So that way everyone can watch the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby live, because that's exactly what I want to do, just like I know you guys do as well. Cheers, Supermo. Thank you very much for always being here. Wednesday, I am planning to do I want it to be an entire mailbag episode on any topic. You guys can ask me just about damn near anything: baseball, football, golf, bourbon, life, whatever. I don't care. We'll just do a random mailbag here just for the middle of the season. And I do want to include, and on this, and if you saw the live the other day, or if you saw the thing I did on the radio, like, my son has kind of taken interest in this and like what I do with these shows and baseball and those sort of things. And so I kind of want to include him on this. I say he's 4 years old, almost 5. And I think it would be kind of cool if you guys left like a set of questions, and I'll set them up. I'll set them up on Discord. I'll set it up on Twitter. You guys can just drop replies in. But if anybody listening to this wouldn't mind asking Ezra, my son, a question in there, maybe I'll have him come on and do like 4 or 5, just to include him a little bit on this, and he can say that he got to be on his dad's show, and we'll always have an episode together right at this age. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I'm going to take advantage of being able to do something like that during the All-Star break, along with any other questions you guys have. And then Thursday we'll do the normal live show at 8:30. Recap the Derby and the All-Star game, any notable performances from Michael, who is an All-Star now, vindicated, Carlos Estevez, All-Star, along with Chris Bubich and Bobby Witt Jr., and any performances those guys have during the break and during that game. And then we'll preview that Marlins series as well. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me here. A little bit of a longer episode today, but I do appreciate the time. I'm going to go and keep working on my Oklahoma State Dynasty on CFP 26 before I got to go to work tomorrow and Sunday scaries hit. So I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you very much. Cheers. Have a great one, everybody.